started. Hello, everyone. My name is Jeff Hunter. I'm the field CTO at NinjaOne. And today we're talking about NinjaOne MDM. And we have a bit of a treat for you. It's rare that we have an all Florida man webinar, but we do today. Josh, would you like to say hello?
Hi, yes, happy to be here. Hope my shirt's not too bright for everybody. I'm really looking forward to giving everybody a quick peek into kind of where we are with MDM and some of the awesome things that we've delivered here recently and soon to be delivering. So looking forward to going through the session, answering questions, and giving some insight into where we are and where we're at.
So we are discussing NinjaOne MDM. This is the end of the year, so this is a bit of a year in review or half year in review. We officially launched the NinjaOne platform in over the summer in July, and so in the 5 months since, we've had several updates. We've added on a lot of new enhancements to the platform, and we are actually in the midst of starting our rollout for 7.0, which includes some features that we'll be able to showcase today. And then we'll also be able to talk about what the future holds. So, what does the first half of 2025 look like in terms of a roadmap and development perspective? We've already brought a lot to the table so far, but we have a lot more really cool stuff planned that we're excited to show off to you. Before we go too far, though, I did have a question that I wanted to pose to everybody, which is if you have used NinjaOne MDM, if you've been hands-on with it, done some testing, or are actively using it today, like thousands of customers are, we'd love to know your thoughts. So we have a poll question that we're going to pop up here. Would love to know what you guys think of NinjaOne MDM. And for anybody who hasn't used NinjaOne MDM or hasn't used NinjaOne at all, I did have a brief introduction into what we offer. NinjaOne is a consolidated automated endpoint management platform, and it allows you to manage your Windows, Mac OS, and Linux devices via the NinjaOne agent. And this looks very different now than this graphic would have looked at the beginning of the year or the end of last year, because we can now say that we have Android and iOS device support as well through the mobile device management aspect of our platform. And it makes a ton of sense to have these types of tools or to have support for these devices in the same platform because there's a lot of commonality in between the actions that you're going to be taking on these devices. You need to make sure that they're patched, that the firmware is up to date. You need to be able to deploy software applications and otherwise manage those applications on the device. You need a complete asset inventory of your entire IT infrastructure in hopefully in one space. Makes it a lot easier to manage. And of course, you need a ton of automation to be able to scale effectively as your business is growing. Businesses grow, it's what they're designed to do, and IT teams need to be able to support that type of growth. And in my experience, and the experience of a lot of NinjaOne users, the only way to make that work, make the numbers work, is to have robust automation, especially when it comes to things like device provisioning. And you also have the ability or need the ability to do remote access screen share so that you can see what the end user sees as a technician to and be able to help them through whatever problem that they are having in that current moment. And for me, this sort of consolidation is hugely beneficial. I have done the business of managing endpoints and used 5 different tools to do everything that we just talked about. It was one portal to manage my Windows devices. It was another portal to manage my network devices. It was another portal to manage my mobile devices. It was another portal for remote access. You get the idea. That sort of fragmentation really has a negative downstream impact on the operation of a help desk. And this is all the more important because there are more endpoints now than there have ever been at any point in history. And what's more is there's more diversity in the types of these endpoints than there have ever been. You have not just your typical laptop that somebody might get, or even just a phone or tablet that's assigned to their direct use. You have the concept of more grab and go or more communal devices that many people are touching throughout the course of a day. And these could be customer facing. These could be kiosks at a movie theater to purchase tickets. It could be a kiosk at a gas station to take your food order. It could be more employee facing devices, maybe a tablet that somebody in a restaurant is using to relay orders from front of house to back of house in terms of the kitchen. These devices are everywhere, and they're only going to become a bigger and bigger portion of the devices that IT teams and MSPs need to be able to manage. What's more so, we have a distributed workforce now, something that really didn't necessarily exist 5 years ago. We have a huge explosion in the amount of remote work. And of course, the expectation now is that somebody needs to be able to work in a hotel room or in a coffee shop or in an airport or at home in essentially the exact same manner as they would if they were in an actual office. That's just the expectation now is that you're able to work anywhere. And you need to be able to support the baseline functionality of those devices with a platform that offers that support. And then finally, IT teams are always being asked to do more with less, and having a consolidated platform that offers the type of robust automation that helps with not just the provisioning of the device, but ongoing maintenance, I think is key because, again, the only way to scale with the business as an IT team is generally to have the level of automation that is going to reduce repetitive manual tasks that do nothing but eat up time. And we would say, why mobile device management? Well, to be quite honest, it is the only game in town when it comes to Android, iOS, and iPadOS. In contrast to Windows, where we can install an agent and that can actually take on a lot of the responsibility and take a lot of action. With mobile devices, Google and Apple, as developers, have not allowed that. They want those devices to be managed through APIs that they create and they determine what functionality is accessible and manageable by the system administrator. So if you want to have these devices under management, and trust me, you absolutely do want to have these devices under management, MDM is a necessity. And this is going to allow you to standardize the management of these devices, make sure that your end users get everything that they need rather than having to do a ton of manual setup. Or worse, you have a technician doing the manual setup and then they miss a step and then the end user has to go back and forth. That just adds on more pressure to the help desk, and it is adds on additional time to the provisioning process. And with an MDM, you'd be able to deploy all the applications that the end user is going to need for their device. You're able to set restrictions on the device functionality. So maybe you don't want the end user to be able to access the camera. Maybe you don't want them to send SMS text messages. Maybe you don't want them to make outgoing phone calls. All of this can be controlled within NinjaOne MDM. And this is going to have the effect of improving your security posture, providing more protection for company data, and preventing potentially malicious attackers from compromising that data. And again, overall, just a better, stronger experience for the end user. And so, why did NinjaOne build MDM? Well, we heard a lot of good reasons why we would want to build it, but first and foremost is that our customers really, really wanted it. It was a highly requested feature. We have a public roadmap that any NinjaOne customer can submit an idea to, and any NinjaOne customer can vote for. And the number one rated feature for years was mobile device management. So we're very happy to bring that out, but we also continue to develop it in an ongoing manner, as you'll hear about in a little bit, some of the new things that we've brought out recently, and then what we have planned next for MDM. And of course, having MDM is, again, a necessity. You need to have control of these devices in the workplace. There are different scenarios where you need to manage them. There are certainly times when the device is going to be wholly company owned, it's a company device. But you also want to have the flexibility to offer bring your own device service as well for times when maybe buying a company owned device for someone just isn't in the cards. You need that kind of cost flexibility. These devices, again, need to be under management because they are potential vectors for hostile attackers. This is how company data gets compromised. This is how cyber attacks gain a foothold, is with unmanaged devices. And this is a very natural extension to the NinjaOne platform. This is already where technicians and the help desk are supporting users all day on workstations, on servers, on network devices. To me, makes a ton of sense that you want to have the same team that's going to be supporting Android and iOS mobile devices. You want to have them in that same portal just for convenience and for ease of use. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Josh, who's going to talk a little bit about what we've built so far and then what we have planned next.
Thanks, Jeff. So as Jeff clearly laid out, like there's a lot of different parts related to MDM or why we built MDM and some of the capabilities we put out. I believe we just GA'd in June of this year, so it's only been a short time since we've gone generally available, but we still have thousands of customers using the product today, getting tons of value out of it from both the personally owned device experience, the company owned and personally enrolled experiences or personally enabled, but also the work only and dedicated device workflows across both Android and Apple. truly allowing for you to be as flexible as you need to be, and delivering use cases across your entire estate for all the different use cases. So again, supporting those company owned and BYODs is first and foremost, being able to enroll them for whatever experiences you require in an automated way or a high touch hands on experience. We offer both solutions. Automated experiences all range from, on the Android side, zero touch enrollment or ZTE with Google, as well as Samsung Knox mobile enrollment. So you can take our enrollment IDs and configurations and place them into those services, automating that onboarding experience, really making things a lot simpler for you and your organization. And of course, on the Apple side, integrating with Apple Business and Apple School Manager to again drive automated device enrollment wherever you need it. These are key things for the onboarding experience and making it as easy as possible to help migrate from current solutions that you might be using today to getting into Ninja, where hopefully that process for company owned devices is as simple as erasing it, turning it back on, and now it's enrolled in the new environment and the users continue using that device. More importantly, we want to simplify not just the onboarding process, but of course, managing your policies and configurations. We really try in Ninja in general to simplify this as a complete experience. So you have a resultant set of view of what's configured on a device. How is it getting applications or restrictions, or in the mobile device management world, Wi-Fi payloads. We want to give you all of that in that single policy experience. Whereas your competitors in this space generally have you going in 2, 3, 4 different locations to do that. And we strive to keep that as simple as possible. And of course, in true NinjaOne fashion, it's multi-tenant from the start. So you're able to manage all of, if you've got multiple end customers, multiple Apple business managers, multiple Google environments that you have to manage and maintain, you're able to do all of that within our console and do it in a relatively streamlined way. Of course, remote screen viewing is definitely something that's there today, being able to integrate with NinjaOne Remote to be able to remotely view the end user's device. This does send a notification requiring the user to accept and adhere to, or at least approve the technician wanting to see their screen. Otherwise, there's other paths that we have around the mobile experience, which is a quick connect experience for unmanaged devices. And we're even looking at the possibility of what does a unattended experience look like in the Android world and maybe the Apple world, all depending on a myriad of different nuances with mobile device security and what we should or shouldn't do. Now, of course, there's tons of app features and functionality on the Apple and Android side. You can install and force install, block different apps that you don't want in your organization. With Android, we support both single and multi-app kiosk mode experiences and pieces around that. Of course, you have your apps and books experience for Apple to deliver pay for apps, or more importantly, deliver apps silently to devices that are company owned. And the key use cases around restrictions and managing device lock and wiping devices where you need to, and managing passcodes and clearing passcodes, or resetting a passcode as needed. And then more importantly, location tracking here coming very soon. We've got a ton of customers using this capability today, leveraging the ability to track a device's location without impacting the user, and restricting that device from being used. So you have more of a polling interval of getting a location of a device so you can see where it might be, where it's been for up to the last 7 days. This is great for fleet tracking and being able to keep a track of a fleet of devices or equipment that might be out on the road. Having those capabilities there is extremely paramount. Coming again as part of this 7.0 rollout, we might show some of this in a little bit. I won't peek around the curtain too much, but Apple iOS and iPadOS OS updating. So with Android, we already give you controls over OS updates and app updates there. With Apple, it requires a lot more of an interface and configuration model just to make sure that you get the right experience. And we're also doing this through what is referred to as declarative device management, or DDM. This is going to ensure that your devices, whether they're locked, unattended, or in use, that the user gets a notification or the device just gets forcibly updated when you tell it to. Traditional MDMs are using more legacy protocols, and in those ways requires the end user to do a lot of things to make sure the device gets updated. And the model that we've put forward using more of the modern technologies that Apple has implemented over the last year or so really ensures that the updates that you say should get to the device get there, get installed without having to have the user interact with them, which is going to just make your lives much simpler and easier when it comes to updating these Apple devices. Now, as we move into some of the other key things that are coming in that first half of next year, we've talked about some of the app configuration items. With Google, we support that today. With Apple, we're adding that in. So you'll start to see more functionality around configuring Outlook or configuring Zoom, whatever the case might be, to provide the best end user experience. So on Outlook, maybe you want to turn off that focused inbox, which causes people to miss emails. You'll be able to do that. And more importantly, variable support in these MDM policies also, which now allows you to put in the user's email address for them using variables based on the device information that we have available to us. So now you'll be able to more easily take and reduce the amount of policies you might have created by streamlining those configurations based on device information and app configurations alongside it. And then last, but certainly not least, is kind of the combination of MDM plus agent on Mac OS. I saw a ton of comments already in the chat talking about how Mac OS is needed more. There's more functions that you all are looking for on the Mac OS side. And of course, we've been hearing you. We're looking in that first half of next year to be able to bring you a beta experience that brings in Mac OS MDM capabilities paired with our agent. So you still get live real-time data, terminal access, file transfer, all the things that you know and love about the agent paired with MDM. So you can deliver custom payloads, apps from the Play Store or the App Store with configurations, be able to set policy, privacy preferences or system extension information. And of course, deliver out of the box NinjaOne's policy preferences. So that way the agent can do what it needs to from a backup standpoint, from just raw file transfer standpoint. It can do what it needs and you don't have to manage it anywhere else. So a lot of great things on the horizon. There's obviously probably a lot more than what we've got on the screen here. These are some of the big ticket items. With that, I'll hand it back to you, Jeff. I think we might be going into a demo here in a moment.
Yes, we are going to be getting into a demo very shortly, but I did want to talk a little bit more about why NinjaOne MDM, some of the benefits that you'll see once we enter into that demo. First and foremost, for me, it is having all of these devices in a single pane of glass. You have your servers, you have your workstations. Makes total sense that I also want to be able to instantly access my phones, iPads, tablets, both Apple and Android mobile devices. I want to have that complete asset inventory in one spot. Just makes it easier having that kind of visibility. And overall, the consolidation of tools does two things. It reduces the complexity of your operation. Generally, when you have to be a Jeff of all trades in multiple tools, it means you're rarely a master of them. So having one tool where you can become an expert, I think is going to be preferable in the long run, also make it easier to hire and train, but also reducing the complexity of the cost. Generally, when you have multiple point solutions, that is going to add up and be more expensive than a platform solution that does everything that you need. You get visibility over your Android and Apple devices that are not being managed. And for me, I think the provisioning element is hugely impactful here. You have a situation, as we'll talk about, where you can have, say, an iPhone be enrolled in Apple Business Manager at the time of purchase. Inside of Apple Business Manager, you can then point that device to enroll into an MDM, NinjaOne MDM automatically. And within NinjaOne MDM, that device is receiving a policy that has all its settings. What's the passcode baseline? What applications are allowed or blocked? What restrictions are in place on the device to prevent certain functionality? And then some other security settings as well. And so overall, this just gives you a stronger security posture and has all these devices under management. And this is also good for end users. They don't have to go through the process of manually configuring a device. It reduces friction with the help desk, having to go back and forth about, oh, I need this and I need that. Just streamlines the process and makes it vastly more efficient. And this all comes back in the NinjaOne platform that has been proven to be easy to learn, easy to use. It's backed by the #1 rated support team in the business, and we offer free and unlimited onboarding and training. through our solutions engineering department. So anytime you need to talk to anyone about something NinjaOne related, you have that free, easy technical resource to have somebody to chat with. And finally, as we've talked about, we have a customer driven roadmap. We have MDM today because of hearing the voice of the customer. That is one of the reasons why that exists, the primary reason, in my opinion. And our continued development is also impacted by that feedback. I can see people asking questions and requesting features in the chat right now. And our PM team is taking notes on that. I mean, that's the type of feedback that we really want to hear. And with that, let's go ahead and dive into a demonstration. Hopefully everybody can still see my screen here. Looks like we are good.
Got the PowerPoint presentation right now.
Now let me reshare with the entire screen. There we go. Eventually figured it out.
Perfect.
And here we see the NinjaOne dashboard. This is the system dashboard. This is where you have a complete overview of the health of your IT infrastructure. One thing you'll notice here, if we look at an organization, workstations, remote devices, this would be a network device like a switch, and then mobile devices. So we can see right here immediately, we have all these different device types inside the same platform, easily ready for access. Now, I love using the global search bar at the very top to identify devices. I can use the forward slash on my keyboard to jump up to that, like so. And you can see I have all these different devices. Here's a Windows workstation. Here's an Apple iPad. Here's an Android phone. And we have other stuff like knowledge base articles and documentation that I can easily find as well. And if I want, I can go ahead and find my tablet like so. There's my tablet, my Android tablet right there. I can even use the play button here to take actions. So maybe I want to quickly lock the device, reset the passcode, maybe even erase or reboot the device. And so I can do that very easily right here. Now, one additional feature that we have that I think is going to be very useful as it just becomes more commonplace for your users to have multiple devices that they're touching every day is the concept of an assigned user. You have the ability to assign a user to a device and then use that global search bar at the very top to find what you're looking for. So instead of searching for Jeff's tablet, I would instead search for myself, Jeff Hunter. And you can see right here where I am the assigned user. Here's the server that I use in this environment for management, and then there's my tablet that I use in here as well. I just need to click on this line item here or use the play button to take action, and I get that immediate ability to impact the device. Or in this case, makes the identification process much easier when you're working on help. Now, another option that we have is being able to go over to the devices menu on the left-hand side, and this would show us all of our devices if I clear out this filter. So right there, I see my entire fleet, and then I can use the filters at the very top to find different subsets of devices that match common criteria. So in this case, I can find all of my Android devices or maybe all of my Apple devices. Another nice thing about this is I can select these devices and then take action across them. Maybe I want to move them to a different organization or location or a different policy. I might want to delete them en masse, or I might want to take action across all of these devices. And this could be locking the device, clearing the passcode, the same settings that we saw earlier from the play button. It could also be installing software. So if I needed to push out, let's say, Google Chrome to all of these devices as a browser, it's very easy to do that. Now, keep in mind here, when we get into the policy section, that's where you're going to be setting your baselines for all your devices. So the idea is that you shouldn't have to come in here and install applications regularly. That should be set up through the policies. And as those devices get joined into NinjaOne MDM, they're automatically receiving the applications they should have. But it's nice to have this ad hoc ability to install applications whenever we need it. Now, before we go further, I want to talk about how these devices actually get inside of NinjaOne MDM. We're going to go to the administration section and then into the apps exchange, and you'll see that we have separate tiles here for NinjaOne MDM Android and NinjaOne MDM Apple. I'll take a quick look at Android first. Here is where you can add in your Android enterprise connections. You need one minimum to be able to manage Android devices. But if you need to integrate multiple Android enterprise connections, we absolutely support that. This would be very useful for MSPs, managed service providers who have multiple clients. You're definitely going to need to add in these multiple Android enterprise connections. And this results in a workflow where if you're using Android Enterprise, you can get a zero touch or a low touch workflow, whereas devices are purchased, they're in Android Enterprise, they automatically are assigned to NinjaOne MDM. And then as the device appears in NinjaOne MDM, it's receiving all those default settings for passcode baselines, applications that should be installed, when are you patching the device, what restrictions are in place. And you'll see something very similar with Apple MDM. When we come in here, this is going to look a little different just due to the nature of, again, different developers. Apple is also an all inclusive manufacturer and developer. There are no other manufacturers of Apple devices. And so that's one of the reasons why this looks slightly different. Uh, the equivalent of an Android Enterprise connection for Apple MDM would be the Apple Push Notification Service certificate. We would add in one of these to be able to manage any of our devices. And if we needed to add in multiples of these certificates in order to manage multiple Apple Business Manager tenants, again, this is great for managed service providers. We absolutely have that ability. And this will give us that capability to manage those devices in all those disparate environments that are not joined together once all those devices come into NinjaOne MDM. Now, you might also, and I would certainly recommend, utilizing the automated device enrollment option supported by Apple. And this is the same equivalent workflow that I discussed for Android. You have your devices enrolled in Apple Business Manager at the time of purchase. Those devices can then be automatically enrolled in an MDM through the ADE, the automated device enrollment profile that we see here. And so those devices would be enrolled in NinjaOne MDM, and then they would receive all the applications and settings that we would set in policies, which we'll take a look at in just a moment. The last bit here for Apple MDM is the Apps and Books token. This was formerly known as VPP or the Volume Purchase Program, but it's now named Apps and Books. And this is what allows you to purchase applications through Apple Business Manager and then relay those to the device using NinjaOne MDM. And of course, if you need to add multiples of these tokens, we support that as well. So multiples of all the tokens we've talked about today, absolutely possible with NinjaOne MDM. Now, in both these cases, if you're using Android Enterprise or if you're using Apple Business Manager, that generally is going to be for supervised enrollment or company owned enrollment. And so that will require a factory reset in order to enroll in the new MDM. That is a restriction on the part of the developer. That's just how they've built MDM to work. In order to get that company owned, fully supervised enrollment, it is required to factory reset your device. However, you have other options within NinjaOne for bring your own device or unsupervised management. And we would access that in the top right from the plus sign. You can see we have the ability to add a device. Might add a mobile device right here, the second line item. Here we can see Android. I just need to select an organization, a location, my device role, and then my usage type. And so on Android, I could do a work-based enrollment. This would be a wholly company-owned device. And again, to enroll in this manner would require a factory reset of the device. Or I can use the bring your own device concept that Android supports, which will take the work data that gets pushed down and it will silo it separately from the personal data. And so that's a very convenient option for bring your own device enrollment with Android on NinjaOne MDM. Now, this works slightly differently on Apple. Apple doesn't necessarily have the same support for a siloed container of work versus personal data in the same manner. And so when you use this QR code, you are only enrolling in an unsupervised mode. You are not be able to enroll in supervised mode through the QR code. You would have to use Apple Configurator for supervised mode, or of course, using Apple Business Manager for supervised mode, like we mentioned earlier. Now, when the device joins into NinjaOne MDM, regardless of how it gets there, whether you scan a QR code, whether you use Apple Configurator, whether you use Android Enterprise or Apple Business Manager, once that device is enrolled in NinjaOne MDM, it is going to need a policy. That is what determines all the important settings of the device. You can see our agent-based policies right here, but we also have our MDM policies down here on the left. And if I click on that, you'll see that I have distinct policies for Android, Apple iOS, as well as Apple iPad OS. Let's quickly take a look at an Android policy right here. And just looking on the left-hand side here, you can see the major settings that policies allow you to control. Baseline passcode settings, restrictions on device functionality, what applications should or should not be installed, network settings like proxy setup or Wi-Fi profiles, certain security settings, which would include things like patching when the operating system needs to be updated, enforcement of the policy, and then location tracking. And this will give you the current and the historical location of the device. This is something that is now generally available with the 7.0 release. If you're in Canada or the oceanic regional instances of Ninja, congratulations, you are already on 7.0. If you are in Europe or the second US instance, I believe you're getting that next week. And then if you're in the main US instance, we'll see this in app.ninjaRMM.com shortly after the first of the year. So immediately after the first of the year in 2025, that first week, we should see that get deployed. Now, I'll break down a few of these settings a little bit more closely. I think the passcode settings are fairly self-explanatory. Is it enabled? And then just setting all your various complexity settings here. But then we can go into the restrictions. And this is where we can control what functionality is not allowed on the device. And so maybe we don't want them to be able to capture the screen. Maybe we want to prevent any outgoing calls. Maybe we want to disable SMS messaging entirely. And so we can go ahead and use this to control what's allowed or not allowed on the device. Now, going back to the concept of personal enrollment versus work enrollment, uh, there are certain of these restrictions that are not going to be applicable depending on your enrollment type. But we've tried to make this as easy as possible in terms of the user experience because you can use this drop down selection right here to look for restrictions that would apply to just personally owned devices versus devices that are wholly company owned. And you can see that the list gets a little bit longer with company enrollment versus personal enrollment. We can also set our applications that we want to be pushed to the device, as well as what applications we might want to block. You can see here we have a Play Store mode, and we can set this into an unspecified mode where essentially anybody can do anything. We can set this into an allow list mode where we're only allowing them to download specific applications, or we can do the inverse of that where we're doing a block list. And this is where we're going to block only specific applications that we've listed here. We do offer a multi-app kiosk mode here or a single app kiosk mode on Android. So we can go ahead and turn on our multi-app kiosk launcher right here and then determine more of our kiosk settings in this separate tab right here. We can configure our VPN right here. And then below that, you'll see our managed applications. And so these are the applications we might want to block. It might be the applications we want to push to devices. And if we go in here, you'll see all the various options that we have on something like Google Chrome, that assignment type right at the very top. Again, what is going to be blocked? What is available for download? Maybe we want to put this into a single app kiosk mode so you can only use Google Chrome as the only application on the device. And you get plenty of other abilities to control the auto update mode. If this is a connected app for both work and personal, a lot of settings in here that we can control. And I would also point out the managed configurations. This is actually a new experience within 7.0. We've redesigned this UI here. And you can see that the managed configurations are application specific settings. And so you can go ahead control, in this case, settings that are specific to Google Chrome and no other application. And so here we can go down and maybe we do want to allow DNS queries right here. Maybe we want to allow cache control. So all these will be application specific settings that you can specify. And then in terms of the roadmap, so this is not in the product today, but one of the things we have planned for the first half of 2025 is the ability to utilize variables in these managed configurations. So if you need to refer to, say, the assigned user of the device dynamically, you'll be able to do that inside of the managed configurations. Today, we only support the managed configurations for Android, but we do have that planned for early next year to also support managed configurations on iOS. And coming with that support will also be the ability to refer to those variables that I mentioned, which will make the dynamic policy management way, way easier. Other settings here, network settings, add in your Wi-Fi profiles, add in your manual proxy setup here. We have other security settings. I'll point out a few here that I think are really beneficial. Number one is another new feature that came in the 7.0 release. And you can see here the custom messaging. So the ability for IT teams to be more communicative with the end user, which I think overall just provides a better experience for both entities, quite honestly. You can see we have short and long support messages, and this is when the user is going to tap for more action, more information on a prompt that they've received. And then I also love this, the lock screen message that will appear on the lock screen. Again, just a great way to communicate with your end users. And this is important if we go down a little further, because you'll see something with the system update configuration. And this is going to be when we update the operating system on the device. You have a couple different options here. One is, of course, unspecified, where the end user can do this whenever they like. The other is automatic. However, this could potentially be not something you want to implement because sometimes the updates do require a reboot as soon as it applies. And so, if this just happens in the middle of the day, that could impact somebody's workday. They might not be able to access their phone, and they might need to because our phones are kind of how we interact with the world these days. And so many people, most people, I think, are utilizing the windowed configuration option. You can set a window when this update is going to occur. And I think that goes hand in hand with those messages that we can display right here. A lock screen message would be able to let somebody know when their update window is taking place. You also have the option here to delay updates. So if you want to go the other direction, you don't want to have devices patch quickly, you want to have them actually not be patched, you can go ahead and set the freeze period here, which will be a max of 90 days. Other options for policy enforcement here. So if you're out of compliance with any of these settings, do we want to block something or do we want to wipe the entire device after a certain period of time? You do have the option here to preserve the factory reset protection if you'd like to. And lastly, for Android policies, is the location tracking. Again, this is a generally available feature with the 7.0 release. So as that rolls out to your regional instance, you'll see this available for you. You have a couple different options here. You have the accuracy mode, balanced mode, which will be less accurate but consume less power, or high accuracy mode, which will give you a more exact granular location but is going to eat the battery a little bit more. You can also determine the cadence on which you want to update this. Do we want it to be a time-based trigger? So every 30 minutes, we want an updated location. Or would we rather do this based off of distance traveled? And so if you've traveled 500 meters, we'll then go ahead and update that location on a recurring basis. And this, again, does give you both the current as well as the historical location of the device. Real quick, let's go into an iOS policy. You'll see here that this does look slightly different. And again, that just comes down to the difference in the developer and how they've decided to approach management for their respective devices. But we have the same ability to manage our passcode complexity here. We have the same ability to control what restrictions are on the device. Again, going to those differences, you'll see here that the verbiage that Apple utilizes is different than what Google uses for Android. In Android, it's all about disabling functionality, whereas in Apple, it's about allowing functionality. So, one thing to keep in mind there is a verbiage difference here that will impact what happens whenever you check a box on any of these restrictions. You, again, do have the ability to look for supervised or wholly company owned device restrictions versus those that will also be supported on unsupervised devices as well. Same ability to go ahead and configure what applications should be deployed. This does give you the ability to use the apps and books tokens that we mentioned earlier, as well as the public app store. And although I forgot to show it on the Android side, you do also have the ability to use the Play Store to push applications there. For instance, I can go ahead and find Google Chrome by searching the public app store right here, and you'll see anything that happens to have Chrome in the title, and you would have the exact same experience with the Play Store on the Android side of things. And of course, we can go ahead and set our settings here. Is this blocked? Is it forced to be installed? And again, we do have plans for managed configuration support that should come out sometime in the first half of 2025. And again, that will include some of that variable support that I mentioned that allows you to assign settings more dynamically using those variables and the policies. We also have our network settings here, and then we have our operating system updates. You can see here that this is going to allow you to control the iOS patching on the device, what type of update can be installed, everything, or just the most recent or the least recent update that's available. Should the end user be allowed to install beta versions of the operating system? And if you want to take more direct control, you can then delay when operating system updates are going to be installed up to 90 days and then manually schedule the window in within which these updates should be approved. And so here I can go ahead and select what version of the operating system and then when exactly I want to push this to the device. And so you get more granular control over the operating system patches here on the iOS policy. And one thing that's really nice about this is if I close out here on iOS, if we go into our patches here and we look at our pending patches, there's all of our pending iOS patches that require approval. And so on iOS, you're going to be able to manage these patches just like you would with your Windows patches, with your Linux patches, with your Mac OS patches. You're going to be able to see all of these here and then take action. And you get the same experience as well in here as we got in policies. So if I'm going to approve something like this, I get that enforcement deadline, I get the time that this is going to be applied, and I also get to determine which policies this is going to apply to. Currently, I only have this one policy that's requesting this specific iOS firmware update. So this is very handy. You get the same experience that you're already used to when you're managing patches for your other devices. So let's go ahead and take a look at what this results in. What do we actually get at the device? So let's first look at this on iOS. We'll go into Leonardo's Samsung right here. You can see here that we have that location readily available, some useful information like the serial number and the model of the device, as well as the manufacturer, of course, what version of the operating system they're currently on. We also get the location tracking. And so I can come in here and see the location of the device. And again, this is historical, so I can look over the last 7 days and see where this device has been. This device isn't going anywhere. This is at our office in Tampa, Florida. You also have a lot of details here. And so you'll see if this device is currently compliant right here. You'll see the reasons why the device is not compliant. Get security information. Is there a pin set on the device? Is the device encrypted? And then more granular information on the nature of the device, as well as network information. And this is all really helpful during the troubleshooting process. If the end user is experiencing an issue, this is the type of information you want to have easily at your fingertips to make sure that the problem gets solved quickly and efficiently. And now I did want to show the remote access options. You can see here we have our security actions, but then NinjaOne Remote right next to that icon. And I have a tablet right here in my hand that I'm going to utilize to show this off to you. And so this is the technician initiated remote access. I am sending a push notification to the device. I'm actually on the wrong device here, so let me go ahead and find my tablet. There. And so here I can go ahead and enable the remote access there. You might have heard the notification sound that I got. And so now as an end user, I am receiving a notification asking me to approve broadcasting my screen to the technician. I'm going to accept that. I'm going to say, yes, I want to start broadcasting. Double check, make sure I shared my screen right and you can see this. Yes. I need to accept a second prompt on my tablet saying, yes, I want to start now. And so there I can actually see the device, the screen right here. Here, let me hide my meeting controls so I can resize this. And so here you can see NinjaOne Remote. Now, one thing to keep in mind here is as a technician, I have no control right now. I am at the mercy of the end user. The end user is navigating around. Now, this is something that on Android, we do have plans early next year to enhance. We are going to be giving the ability for remote control on Android. So you'll actually be able to click on things in NinjaOne Remote and have that reflect an action on the device. Not a path forward on that for iOS. That's an Apple decision. They do not want to allow that kind of functionality on iOS. But Android, there is a path forward, and we should see that supported through NinjaOne MDM early next year. Now, the other
Jeff,
thing I want.
one thing I wanted to highlight that is coming with the mobile app as well, because it was brought up in chat. So sorry to interrupt.
No,
But on
please.
the NinjaOne Assist app, specifically to Android, there's a lot of times where the technicians won't get the serial number, so they can't properly identify the device when they're talking to the end user. With the update to the NinjaOne Assist app coming later this month, early January, users will now get a presented view around the MDM information or the mobile management on the device itself. So whether they're logged in or not to the NinjaOne Assist app, they'll be able to see the MDM specific information that it is managed, that it's enrolled, what its enterprise ID might be or its identifier is. So that way the end users, when working with technicians, can give them the right information to be able to help the technician identify that device if it's not properly tracked with the assigned user in the platform. So just wanted to highlight that that's something that's coming as part of this NinjaOne Assist mobile experience, just to help with some of that identification and extra end user niceties with the technicians.
That's a great call out, and I think I see some excited people in chat. So thank you for that, Josh. And I did want to talk a little bit about the NinjaOne Assist app. You can see I am logged in here as an end user, and I have a couple different things that I can do here. I can create a ticket. I can view tickets that I already have created. I can initiate remote access to, say, a Windows workstation that belongs to me if it's been assigned to my user profile. I also love the knowledge base, the documentation. NinjaOne documentation, you can share knowledge base articles with your end users. And so, for instance, here, I might have my monthly patch report right here. Let's go ahead and open it up in the HTML viewer, and I can view all the patches that have been installed across all my devices right here. You can, of course, break this down by organization if you'd like as well. And another thing that I'm a huge fan of here is that let's say this device isn't managed. Let's say it isn't in NinjaOne MDM, but you still need to share the screen. You can see here that there is an option right here to share the screen. And if I was not already sharing my screen, I would have the opportunity to use NinjaOne Quick Connect to view the screen, even though the device would be completely unmanaged. And so you can actually generate an invitation on the NinjaOne side. You can see it if I close that window. I can come in here and see that right there, Quick Connect. You can see all my invitations and what devices I can connect to. And you can do this across Windows, across Mac OS, and across iOS and Android as well. So sort of cross-platform ability to be able to um, connect to these devices, even though they are not under management. With that, thank you everyone who attended today. A reminder that this is being recorded and will be posted on YouTube tomorrow. You'll get an email with the link. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us. We would love to hear from you. And with that, thank you again. Thank you to Josh for being here. Thank you to Paul for being in the background and answering questions. And thank you to JP for announcing the giveaway. Take care, everyone, and have a good rest of your day.